Greetings loyal subscribers and honoured guests. If all goes according to plan, then this video will be going live on Christmas Eve, as I thought Christmas Day would be too busy for people to really watch, because everyone will be out and about visiting family and enjoying their Christmas lunch probably. So yeah, so this is my Christmas special that I'm putting up, and I'm going to be flipping through this issue of Superplay, just sort of having a nostalgic look at all the sort of reviews and adverts that were in here. I did buy a pile of issues of Superplay earlier this year. I haven't got issues 1 and 2 because those are quite pricey just by themselves, but I've got a stack of 20 or so from 3 onwards. I don't think there's any missing. So we'll have a look at this one today, and maybe do some more of the later ones in 2024. So without further ado, I'm going to stop prattling on and switch over to the document camera, and we'll take a look at the magazine. So here we are, and as with all issues of Superplay, this one features some fantastic cover art by their artist Will Overton, and you can see characters like Chun-Li, Spider-Man, R2-D2. I'm not quite sure who that cat is. Is it somebody from Thundercats, or is it supposed to be the sort of saber cat from Dragon Quest? I'm not entirely sure, but they're in a pile of presents. I'm going to have to move this cat because we won't be able to see anything. You can see there's a Super Nintendo and a Christmas tree. So yeah, you can see some of the reviews we've got. Mickey's Magical Quest. I remember completing that game several times. It wasn't very challenging, but it looked really nice. And it was just sort of a nice, easy platform game to play through every so often. We've got tips for Super Mario World, and news about the SNES CD-ROM, which was going to be a joint project with Sony called the PlayStation, but of course that they had a falling out and Sony did their own thing. This was still pretty early in the life of the SNES really, and it's only issue 3 of the magazine, like I said in the intro. So let's get on with the magazine itself. We've got a couple of games by Elite, Caveman Ninja and Dragon's Lair. Caveman Ninja I did play quite a bit because it was amongst the sort of early launch-ish titles. I enjoyed it at the time, but eventually I got a bit tired of it, and because it was an early game, it wasn't quite technically as polished as the later sequels would be. Dragon's Lair I never really played on the Super Nintendo. So again, you can see another rendition of the cover art with the sort of contents. Let's have a look at some of the news. So yeah, there's just sort of a Christmas message from the team, and then a sneak preview at Super Star Wars. And I did try and get into the Star Wars games, but they are punishingly difficult. The first one not quite as difficult as the sequels really, and it had a sort of nice range of level types. So you had sort of mode 7 bits in the land speeder, and you had platforming sort of run and gun sections, and you had the Death Star trench run. So it's pretty cool. But let's keep going on. What's this? Foreign release previews. So yeah, there's a bunch of games up on here. Let's see if there's anything of particular note. I'm going to have to put my glasses on to read off the magazine, or I could just read it on the screen. It might be easier. But Sunsoft have got Roadrunner Death Valley Rally. I remember playing that a little bit. It didn't review very well, but I thought it was pretty good fun. I have to keep moving this cat because he's insisting on getting in the way. Over on this side we've got Super Probotector Alien Rebels, which is, if you don't know, is the European title for Contra 3 The Alien Wars, and they switched out Lance Bean and Bill Reiser for 2 robots. So yeah, that's kind of a way of making it less sort of gritty or gory, is to just replace them as cyborgs. We've got Dear Santa, new buyers start here. So this is sort of a the Super Nintendo buyer's guide, as it says, for people who are potentially going to pick one up for somebody for Christmas, or I guess advice for people who want their parents to buy one for you. It's got a little section, Super Nintendo versus Mega Drive, which is best. Of course, being a SNES magazine, they're going to be a bit biased, so I wouldn't really take that advice under too much. I take it with a pinch of salt. And then down here we've got the various bundles which were available, and the bundle that I actually ended up getting, this might have been this Christmas I got it, or it might have been the following Christmas. I think it was actually this Christmas. It was this Street Fighter 2 pack for $159.99, which came with a copy of Street Fighter 2, of course, and 2 controllers, so that you could play it with a friend or a brother, which I did a little bit, although my brother was never that keen on it. But the extra controller did come in handy when Super Mario Kart came out. We played that game to death. Then there's a little section on sort of fight pads that have extra buttons to make it better for playing Street Fighter 2 and Turbo Fire and things like that. There's an advert for RoboCop 3, and I don't ever recall playing the SNES version of that. I played it on the Amiga, which was an interesting 3D game, and I never actually got around to watching the movie of RoboCop 3 because I think it was only a PG. It seemed to be moving away quite seriously from its origins, being a gory sort of dark future thing, and being sort of dumbed down quite a bit. And then there's a form for the Readers Awards. So if I do a follow-up episode with the issue that's got the results, we'll have a look at these. But let's have a look at the categories. You've got Best SNES Beat 'em Up, Shoot 'em Up, Driving Game, Strategy Game, Simulation, Sports Game, Platform Game, Licensed Game, i.e. game based on a film, comic, character or other outside source, Role-Playing / Adventure Game, Puzzle Game, Most Original Game, Best Graphics, Sound, Game of the Year, Worst Game, Best Peripheral, Best Thing to Happen to the SNES Market in 1992, Worst Thing to Happen to the SNES Market in 1992, Games We're Most Looking Forward to Next Year, Favourite International Software Publisher, i.e. software house based outside the UK, Favourite UK Software Publisher, Favourite International Software Developer, Favourite UK Developer. And then predict the winners and win a Game Genie. I predict the top 5 best SNES games of the year will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I forget what came out in 1992, but I'd imagine Super Mario World would have to be near the top, and Street Fighter 2, to be honest. So we'll see what comes out of that when it eventually comes to pass. We've got another advert for Populous, which I did play a little bit. It became quite addictive. I quite enjoy games by Peter Molyneux, and that was before he sort of overhyped his games and then underdelivered with stuff like Fable. And then Kickoff, which I'm not bothered about. Sleepwalker, I'm not sure ever came out on the SNES. It was obviously being developed as it's featured here, but it was a sort of C64 title which they were porting across. But I don't remember a SNES release ever happening. It might have been cancelled before it came out, but might well be mistaken, because my knowledge of the entire SNES library is not comprehensive. So I'll have to look into that and see if it was actually released. And then there's the hot list: Super Mario Kart, Super Mario World, Legend of Zelda, Desert Strike and Rampart. So the first three are fairly predictable, really. They're the biggest Nintendo published games on the platform at the time. But the other two are a bit more of a surprise. Desert Strike was a fun game. I played it a fair bit, but I don't think I played the SNES one quite as much. I think I played it more on the Mega Drive. And then Rampart is the surprise pick, and I've heard good things about it, but it's another game that I never actually played. So and then there's the sort of future entertainment show in Earl's Court. I did actually go to one of these. I don't know if it was this one. I don't think it was. I think it might have been a later one. And yeah, these were basically a sort of trade show. Well, not really trade. They were open to the public, but they just had sort of games that were about to come out and systems that were about to come out on show. And the one I went to, I remember, was quite interesting, because there was a whole raft of CD-ROM consoles on the verge of coming out, and it was quite hard to predict at the time exactly which one would be successful. So you had the Philips CDI, you had the 3DO, and you had the Sega Saturn, and you had the PlayStation, and I think there was another one. And at the time I remember thinking, I don't know which one of these is actually going to stick, because Sony was an unknown quantity in gaming. So and I very nearly went with the Saturn when it came time for me to choose a console, and that would have been a bit of a mistake. I probably would have found some games that I really would have liked, but the releases weren't nearly as popular as the PlayStation turned out to be. So I think I made the right choice in the end. And it probably wouldn't have been. I probably wouldn't have picked a PlayStation if my brother hadn't bought one himself and I hadn't actually played it a bit beforehand. Moving on, more about Desert Strike. A book review of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past Game Secrets, and they're also sort of pimping out another one of their magazines, Games Master Issue 1 down here. And then you've got one of these companies, mail order companies, selling games, and you can see the price of games. Actually, it was starting to come down, but early on in the life of the SNES, game prices were ridiculous. You could sort of pay around £80 just for Street Fighter 2 because it was in such high demand. But these games are sort of more in line with what I would expect after a while. They're sort of between 40 and 50 quid. Street Fighter 2's £54, so it's still the most expensive one on the list, really. But yeah, they're starting to become more reasonable. Yeah, they always had a couple of pages about anime, which I wasn't too interested in at the time. I tried to get into anime a few times, but the Legend of the Overfiend put me off. That's a horrible film, really. There's a Merchandise of the Month Nintendo calendar. Another mail order company, and then some charts. So let's have a look at these. The official Penguin Gallop UK chart. We've got Street Fighter 2 at the top, Link to the Past, WrestleMania, Joe and Mac, Top Gear, TMNT 4, I think that was Turtles in Time, Super Soccer, Super Pro Protector, Exhaust Heat and Pilot Wings. In Japan, Dragon Quest is dominating at the top, and then you've got more or less the sort of usual suspects underneath that. A game called Military Battlefield in 6, I'm not sure what that is. Cosmo Gang, I remember that in the arcades. And then looking at America, again, that Street Fighter 2 is on top. And they've got Soul Blazer, which is a really good RPG, and one that I actually picked up from a sort of import shop that we had nearby called Ross Records in Portsmouth. And I took a bit of a risk buying it, actually, because I don't think that any reviews had come out, and I just wanted a sort of RPG game that was played similarly to Zelda. So I picked it up, and it turned out to be fantastic. I've completed Soul Blazer numerous times. I regret not holding on to my cartridge because it's quite valuable now, but I can still play the game on emulation, so it's not as if I can't play it. But there's an interview with, who is this? Eric Matthews. Oh, he's from the Bitmap Brothers. He worked on games like Gods and the Chaos Engine. Special Reserve, yeah, I remember them. Never actually bought anything from them, but they were always advertising. And here we go. The CD-ROM, the future of Super NES games. So yeah, this was the PlayStation project that they were working on in conjunction with Sony. And it was originally going to just sort of bolt on to the bottom of the SNES itself. And here are sort of rival systems. So you've got the CDI, you've got the Amiga CD-TV, Mega CD, NEC CD-ROM, and PC CD-ROM, of course, and CD-ROM XA. I'm not sure what that one is. Sony's creation. Here we go. Yeah. Currently the proposed platform for the Super Famicom CD-ROM system. So this would be the one that would eventually evolve into what we know as the PlayStation. And then there's more stuff about CD-ROM games, with Seventh Guest being one of the most popular ones, and Lawnmower Man down here. And that carries on for another bit, and then there's an advert for Turtles in Time, which I really enjoyed. I never actually owned a copy myself, but I would rent it every so often and beat it and then take it back. That was much the same with Mickey's Magical Quest. I never owned it. I rented a lot of SNES cartridges for a weekend back then, and then I think I'd pick it up on sort of Friday afternoon after school and take it back on Sunday evening, or maybe sometimes hold on to it for an extra day and take it back on Monday. But a lot of my games were played that way, and the graphics were really good in Mickey's Magical Quest. It was just a bit lacking in challenge, really, but that wouldn't bother younger gamers, because it would at least mean they can play through it without getting stuck. I'm not sure I would quite put it in the same league as Castle of Illusion. I think it looked better and sounded better, but maybe didn't quite play as well. They gave it an overall score of 89%, and they said gorgeous graphics, lovely sprites, bags of character, and far too easy, but I still love it to bits. Once again, pure quality from Capcom, make no mistake about it. And they made several sequels which were re-released on the Game Boy Advance, and I never got round to playing those. Now we've got Super Double Dragon, and something I noticed about Super Play is that they became a bit sort of anti scrolling beat 'em ups after a while, and they would rate them quite low. I kind of understand, because the genre never really sort of moved on very much. They were always the same sort of formula, and they could get repetitive, especially played alone. But I do enjoy playing through a beat 'em up every so often. And I thought Super Double Dragon was actually a pretty good one. Yeah, it's one of the better later entries in the Double Dragon series, to be honest with you. And I'm glad it's part of the Jaleco collection on the Evercade, so I can play it. Super LSD. I had this game, but I had it. I had the American version, which was called Space Megaforce. It's a pretty awesome game, and yeah, it is part of the LSD series, which includes other games such as Musha, I think. Compile made loads of games kind of related to each other, and there was stuff like Gunnak on the NES, and was it Power Strike on the Master System? So yeah, there was lots of sort of fairly similar vertical shooters by Compile, and this was one of the sort of better entries, because it was made good use of Mode 7 and had some really awesome music. The only sort of downside to me is that I thought the levels went on a bit too long. So yeah, it would have been better with shorter stages, I think. But yeah, it's a vertical shooter I would go back to quite regularly when I owned it. And let's have a look. 87%. Lovely looking and gorgeous sounding shoot 'em up, which really shows everyone that lots of sprites and no slowdown can be done. The only weak points are the game life, it's too easy, and over-reliance on admittedly excellent weapons. This is still the current benchmark game. I'm not sure I agree with the too easy thing, because from what I recall, you could change the difficulty level, and so there were some that were a lot harder if you turned it up. Yeah, so I don't see that as a big issue. Oh, here's Cosmo Gang, 70%. I don't really remember the SNES version. I remember it being a sort of physical arcade machine, but this looks like it's inspired by Space Invaders, really. It's the same sort of single screen alien shooter, and they gave it 70%. Kickoff got 52. Top Gear, which is another game I've quite enjoyed, got 76, and this is the spiritual successor to the Lotus Turbo Challenge series on the Amiga, really, because it is by Gremlin, and it's got a very similar look and feel to it, and some of the same sort of music sound to it as well. Got Home Alone, which was a huge hit in the cinema around this time, but the games were god awful, so that got 34%. Faceball 2000, yeah, I remember playing the Game Boy version of that. It was technically impressive on the Game Boy, but not nearly as much on the SNES, so I don't think I would have been interested in that. And then here we've got a massive advert for Games Master, the magazine, which I never really read. Battle Clash, which is a Super Scope light gun game, 48%. It's one of the better Super Scope games, I think, really, but that's not saying very much. Oh, and then there's a roundup of the games that come with the Super Scope. And for some reason, this mail order advert is upside down. I don't really understand why they do that, but never mind. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I sort of dabbled with this a little bit because I wanted to get into RPGs, but at the time I never really understood the appeal of a turn-based RPG and never really got into it. This was a bit of a weird release, really, for the West, because instead of giving us one of the full Final Fantasy experiences, they put this one out, which was a sort of dumbed down version, much easier. They gave it 79% and said funny, hugely enjoyable, and a great introduction to the genre. Just don't expect it to last you very long. Yeah, so I wasn't very impressed really when I tried Mystic Quest a little bit. I must have rented it once and been put off, so it would be quite a long time since until I tried a Final Fantasy game again, to be honest. Probably not till Final Fantasy VII became hugely hyped. Oh, and then there's an article on Dragon Quest. And I do remember being quite fascinated with Dragon Quest whenever they talked about it, because it was, as they explained it, it was the one of the most popular games in Japan, and there was that story going around about how they released one on a work day and everyone skived off, so they had to release future sequels on a Saturday to make sure they didn't lose people. So that tiger on the front cover must have been the saber cat from Dragon Quest. Yeah, so that makes sense. An advert for the Action Replay, something I had on the Commodore 64 but never on the SNES, and it was a cheap cartridge, and I think it had a universal adapter built in, although they also sold that separately at a reduced price. So yeah, if you weren't interested in the cheats, you could just get the adapter, something which I did have when I had a UK SNES to play imports, but magazines like this one were constantly saying how 60 Hz systems ran faster, so I swapped my PAL SNES for an American one, and just got American cartridges and adapted the UK ones, and that worked pretty well. It was occasionally a stranger cartridge that had some kind of additional chip in it, which meant it wouldn't work with the adapter I'd got, and then I'd have to rent a newer adapter along with the game to make it work. But luckily my local game rental place actually had adapters for that purpose. So then there's the Super Mario World tips, a game to this day that I've never actually played through all the way and done all 96 exits. I've seen the ending because I've completed it on someone else's save, beaten Bowser, but I always sort of get to the Forest of Illusion, World 5 here, and start to lose interest. So, but maybe with the help of these tips I could actually get through it if I applied myself, although I'm not sure about these Star World levels because they're pretty challenging. The IREM Skins game, I do remember renting this once or twice and actually really enjoying it. I do enjoy a good golf game, funnily enough. I prefer the sort of arcadey type of golf game like Mario Golf, to be honest with you, but this was a pretty intuitive, semi-realistic game, and they gave it a score of 83%. I can't remember how many courses were built in, probably just one actually, but that didn't seem to be an issue back then. But today I'd probably be a bit upset if my golf game only had one course in it. The Amazing Spider-Man and the X-Men in Arcade's Revenge. A game that I've never played. I wasn't terribly interested in Marvel or comics at the time. I've only become sort of interested in Marvel since the MCU was a thing, really. Well, and the Sony Spider-Man films. But yeah, Qbert 3. So they were still plugging away with him. 67%. Super Strike Gunner looks like a pretty average vertical shooter. James Bond Jr., which I think was based on a cartoon. Pretty terrible by all accounts, 29%. And Pushover, which was I think this was that puzzle game which had a tie-in with Quavers, the Crisps, on the Amiga at least. It looks like they might have dropped that license from the SNES version. It got a score of 78%, and it's basically about solving puzzles with these domino type things. And yeah, there's different types according to the stripes and colours on them. I don't really know how to play it because I don't think I've ever tried it. Amazing Tennis. Is this? Yeah, it's David Crane's Amazing Tennis. I thought it was associated with somebody, and they seem to quite like it actually, 80%. And then Home Alone 2. This is an American import, as it says up here. So it actually got reviews of the original Home Alone in PAL version and the sequel in the same issue, and this one, by all accounts, is only slightly less terrible than the first one. Race Driving. I can't stand the hard driving series. I know that it's got its fans, but I'm not one of them. And the SNES version got 35%. More adverts for companies selling games, and then this could be handy. I've been meaning to play through A Link to the Past again. I've played it through once on the Game Boy Advance actually, but one of these days I might play through it again, and a guide might be handy for some of the later dungeons at least. So this looks like quite an abridged guide, to be honest. It's not very detailed, but it's all here by the look of it. Yeah, Dungeon 7, and then at the end. So it's the whole game. It's just a bit lacking in detail. I might need to find another guide for it. And here's an advert for another of their magazines called Total, and I actually read this, and I found it really amusing at the time, but I don't know how I'd feel about it now, because I think it was aimed at quite young people from the way it was written, but yeah, I'd have to get hold of an issue and see and remind myself what it was like. And now we've got to the sort of letters page. Is this the normal letters page, or is it technical things? Looks like it is the whole letters page. But these are more about sort of technical questions that people had. Yeah. So I was thinking of reading these out, but to be honest, most of these aren't terribly interesting now because they're all about technical issues. But if there's any sort of interesting letters in future issues, we will have a read of those. But in the interest of time, I'm going to move on. Oh yeah, they're trying to sell all sorts of stuff. This is straight from Superplay itself. So you've got a set of speakers, a sort of SNES bum bag type thing, the action replay, a Superplay binder. Let me move it so you'll see this better. And the universal adapter, stuff like that. So you can buy your accessories straight from Superplay. Oh no, here's the proper letters page. So some of these might be interesting. I won't read all of them, but let's try and pick a few. Let's see. Well, there's one down here just called "Please send me a SEPA NES. I am pulling my hair out to get one. I will give you a Sega Master System if you give me one. Yours faithfully, John Bacon, Nottingham." Sounds tempting, John, and if we had a SEPA NES, we would send you one. However, as all we've got is our Super Nintendo, which we need for doing reviews and stuff, we can't help you out. Sorry. Let's have a look at this one over here. Nobody wants to buy Pilot Wings. I recently went to my local shop to buy Pilot Wings, but to my surprise, when I got there, the dealer said he was not taking in any more copies of the game. He said it was because Wings 2 was much better, and nobody wants to buy Pilot Wings. This means I'll have to buy my copy from down south. Could you please tell me if the dealer is right that Wings 2 is so much better that to buy Pilot Wings would be stupid? I've received my Akira video and I think it's excellent, and that everyone with a Super Nintendo should subscribe to your brilliant magazine. Yours sincerely, S. Delgado, Inverness. So do we. As for Pilot Wings, well, it's one of the best SNES games ever, and your shopkeeper would be bonkers if he stopped stocking it. About the only thing Pilot Wings and Wings 2 have in common is aeroplanes. Apart from that, they're completely different styles of games. Oh, and we'd rate Pilot Wings quite a bit higher than Wings 2. There's so much more to it. And finally, let's do this one down here. It could be sort of problematic. Hopefully not, but let's have a look. First, it's called the Japanese Don't Like Us. First, I would like to say that Superplay is the best magazine ever, and I also now have Superplay in Total delivered monthly. Then, I would like to ask some questions. 1. If you and Total are published by the same company, then how come you both grade games differently? Total said Exhaust Heat was brilliant, and you gave it 69%. You gave Rival Turf 58%, and Total gave it 70%. Why is this? 2. Why is it that Britain seems to have problems with consoles and other countries don't? E.g., we have to have borders on our SNES. Is it because the Japanese don't like us? 3. Could you make Game Freak look nicer than just green? Green. Issue 2. 4. Is there going to be a 10 game holder to store my games in? Because at the moment I have a homemade cardboard one. I would like to congratulate you on an excellent magazine, Total as well. And I would never consider those other magazines that take the mickey out of their readers. Kind regards, MJ Turner, Macclesfield. Okay, 1. Total might be produced in the same building as Superplay, but we don't go in there much. It smells a bit funny for a start. In the case of exhaust heat in rival turf, well, we disagreed. Simple as that. 2, we phoned them up to check, and they said I actually think that we're okay, so it can't be that. 3, we tried painting him all sorts of other colours and even putting a bag over his head, but nothing seemed to work. 4, if you check out Superstore on page 97, you should find what you're looking for. It'll only hold 8 carts though, so you'll have to buy 2. Okay, yeah. And then a sort of classified ads bit, and more shops selling their games. And then there's a sort of buyer's guide of every game that's come out so far. Let's just look at this over here, which is Superplay's top 5 driving games. So you've got Super Mario Kart in number 1, F-Zero in number 2, Top Gear in number 3, even though it got only 76%, Super F1 Circus in 4th, and F1 Exhaust Heat in 5th. Yeah, okay. Not too many pages left now. Oh, another top 5. Let's do that. So, here we go. Top 5 2-player games. Number 1, Super Mario Kart. I would probably agree with that. The battle mode, balloon mode, is really fun. Street Fighter 2. I enjoyed it, but I had a hard time getting people to play it with me. Rampart, again, not a game that I'm very familiar with. Superplay, yeah, that was a solid launch title, and Super Smash TV, which was a fun co-op game. Are there any more top 5s? Yes, there's top 5 in-game music. Number 1, Super Castlevania 4. Yeah, that's pretty good. Number 2, ActRaiser. I think I would probably put ActRaiser ahead of Castlevania. 3, Legends of the Mystical Ninja. Yeah, that music was brilliant. Super Probotector. Yeah, okay. And Gradius 3. Yeah. So mostly I'd agree with that. I'd probably move Castlevania down to 3rd actually, and have ActRaiser and Mystical Ninja above it. And then here's the sort of subscriber offer, like the person was talking about in his letter, where you got a free copy of Akira on VHS. A lot more adverts, an index, and now we're on the last page of the mag, really. So coming up next month, they've got a special on the extra chips they're putting in certain cartridges to make the games do things that they couldn't do before. Tips for Another World, also known as Out of This World. Reviews of Madden 93, Dead and Desert Strike, Fatal Fury, and more Formula 1 games, plus Equinox. Yeah. And they've got sort of a glossary that explains certain terms from the SNES. And on the back there's an advert for F1 Exhaust Heat. So that's the end. So I'll just switch over back to the face cam to wrap things up now. Yeah, so that's our look at the Christmas issue of Superplay from 1992, I believe, December. Issue 3. So hope you enjoyed that, and just gives you something fairly festive to watch on Christmas Eve, maybe while you're still wrapping your presents up or doing some last minute preparations. So like I said, I've got a pile more of these issues to look at, which I shall probably do every so often next year, having now done this one. But for now, all that remains is that I say thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, then please leave a like. It does help with the algorithm, and feel free to share and subscribe to the channel. I know I've been promising more PS3 videos for a while now, and I still intend to do those, but I might vary things up a bit with some other games. I've got a Switch game that I played through to completion recently, which I might do a review of, and some other recent Steam Deck and Switch pickups. So yeah, it might not be all PS3 all the time. I might jump around which console I review stuff for. But anyway, I'm going to stop prattling on and let you go. So yeah, see you on the next one, and in the meantime, take care.